Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is July 9th, 2023, and we are getting into the volume 135 of me answering your immigration related questions. As you can see, I have all your comments pulled up in front of me for today. Before beginning this video, as always, I'm going to mention I am not an immigration attorney. This is not a legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USCIS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. So let's start with the very first question, comment from Denise24958. Denise, thank you for another question, appreciate it. And as you can see, this icon means Denise is one of the top commenters on the channel. So Dennis says, hi sir, is the delay coming from the pandemic or NVC? I still don't get this. Denise, it's really hard to answer. Pandemic for sure definitely affected the backlog. We've seen as much as, about a year and a half, 2 years added to the backlog that we already had. We already had the backlog on the visa bulletin. People are waiting for the availability of the immigrant visas, and it's taking quite a long time for most of the family preference categories, especially when we get past the second preference category for third and fourth. And of course, depending on which chargeability area you are from, if you're in all chargeability, then okay, it gets a little bit simpler. But then there's also India, Philippines, Mexico, China, where things get a little bit, a little bit more delayed than all chargeability area. So the pandemic definitely affected the backlog, for sure, no doubt about it. Also, we have to keep in mind that there's a lot of things that are happening right now with the immigration. We see, just in the past couple of months, we've seen a bunch of stuff updated. And, if you're not subscribed to this channel, I know Denise is subscribed to this channel, but if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, please do, because once the new stuff, anything comes out from official government sources, I don't do clickbait on this channel. I really don't. I don't want to say I don't care about people, watching my videos or something like this, but I am not trying to do this for views or anything like this. I do this because I want to be helpful. That's really it. That's why it's called free immigration help. So once the new things come out, once the news come out from USCIS or the Department of State, I make a separate video if the news are important enough to share with you guys, with the viewers. So if you're not subscribed, please do. So it's really hard to answer, Denise, your question. Obviously, NVC is involved, Department of State is involved, Department of Homeland Security is involved, all of this stuff is involved. But at the core of the problem is the fact that the availability of the immigrant visas are limited. That's really it. And at the head of all of this is the Congress. Congress is the legislative branch. So if you want to point a finger at somebody, that would be Congress, because it was initially Congress that decided that there is only a certain amount of annual family sponsor preference immigrant visas that will be issued. That's it. And from this number, then we go and separate this number between all of the countries, between all of the family preference categories. And of course, as you can imagine, there is way more applications that are coming in each year than the available immigrant visas. So each year, the backlog keeps on growing. Each really month, the backlog keeps on growing. So that's why we see sometimes, the new visa bulletin comes out and we look at the dates, the priority dates, and they stay the same. Or sometimes they go back, which is even worse. So at the core of the problem, yes, of course, it's the legislation that came from the Congress. It's the limitation on the availability of the immigrant visas. What we can do about it, we really cannot do much about it, except, like I always mention, reach out to the local elected officials, let them know that this is not fair, that this is a families that immigrated legally themselves and now petitioning for their family members to immigrate legally as well, taking the sponsorship, taking the responsibility for their family members. So there is really no point limiting that, that ability to immigrate. But that's really it, Denise, that's all I can tell you, in response to your question, comment. Okay, let's move on further to Thrishna Parkayasta. I am F4 visa candidate, so sibling of US citizen. The NVC sent us case creation letter for submission. Okay, that's great. For submission for immigrant visa fees and civil document in 2020. Okay, so about 3 years ago now. We submitted all required documents and fees. After that, the visa bulletin has not changed for 18 months. Yes, that was the pandemic since the time of COVID-19. Unfortunately, that's why our priority date is not current. Now we are still waiting for an interview from last 2 years. Okay, yes, that makes sense. As a result, my children getting age out for a visa bulletin. No movement, and my child will not get the CSPA benefit for visa bulletin delay. Please help us and tell me what to do for this and who are aged out for pandemic and visa bulletin no movement. Thrishna, thank you very much for your comment. I really appreciate your question, and I'm very sorry you're dealing with this. Unfortunately, whenever it comes to the family preference categories, and that's another one of the very big things that is crazy unfair. I just cannot find any different words whenever it comes to family immigration, family reunification in general. To add on top of what I've said already in response to Denise's question. That's, children aging out basically. And the way it works for family preference categories and immediate relatives is different. When you are petitioning for an immediate relative, the age of the child and derivative beneficiary, it freezes once the application is submitted, once the I-130 petition is accepted by USCIS. Not approved, but accepted. So once it is there, that's it. Child's age is frozen, all right? However, whenever it comes to family preference categories, which again, if you're a permanent resident, it's going to be your spouse, it's going to be your children under 21, but that don't count because, well, now it's not immediate relative category, but it's a family preference category, which is ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But again, who am I to decide, right? For Congress or for whoever came up with this idea. But for family preference category, the age of the child does not freeze. The only thing that you can do, and this is CSPA, that was Child Status Protection Act, which was introduced to kind of help with that issue, although it's not much help at all if you think about it. What you can do is you can subtract the amount of time the petition, the I-130 petition, was pending with USCIS on the day the immigrant visa is available, if the child is over 21. So for example, if your child is now 22 years old by the time the immigrant visa is available, right? Which is not really a child, it's already an adult, but whatever. 22 years old. Your son, let's say, is 22 years old. And let's say your petition, I-130 petition, was pending with USCIS, not the visa backlog, not any of that stuff. Just pending with USCIS for 2 years. You can subtract those 2 years from the current age of your son, which is 22, minus 2 years pending with USCIS, and now the age of your son is considered 20. So now your son can be considered a child under the CSPA and travel with you as a derivative beneficiary. Unfortunately, in most cases, like Thrishna in yours, it does not really work. Why? Because USCIS petition doesn't really, most of the times it doesn't stay in pending status for more than, couple of years. However, whenever it comes to the backlog, especially like in Thrishna's case, F4 forced preference category, we are talking about 15, possibly 20 years of backlog that you have to wait. So obviously, if you had children that were, 5 years old, by the time you get to the availability of the immigrant visa, they will be already aged out to the point where even if you subtract the amount of time the I-130 petition was pending with USCIS, is going to be pointless. It's not going to bring them down under 21. So you see Thrishna stuck in a not very good position. And honestly, at this point, there is really not much you can do. The only thing I would recommend, Thrishna, is apply for your children that do not qualify under the CSPA. Have them apply for a non-immigrant visa, tourist visa, visitor visa, B1, B2. something along those lines, so that they can travel with you to the United States of America. And then once you get your, once your immigrant visa is available, once you enter the country and you get your permanent residence, which will be immediately as soon as you enter the country, you will have to start another petition, another I-130 petition for your children who aged out. And yes, it will be a whole other process. Yes, you will have to wait quite a long time for them to immigrate finally, but this is really the only option that is being left for immigrants at this very point, unless something changes either with CSPA or in general with the availability of the immigrant visas. So Trishna, again, I'm very sorry that you're dealing with this, but it seems like you don't really have much options except, finding a way for your children to travel with you on a non-immigrant visa, and then petitioning for them as soon as you enter the country, because once you get your immigrant visa, which is an I-551 stamp in your passport, as soon as you enter the country, United States, with the stamp, it automatically converts to a temporary permanent resident card. So you will enter the country as a permanent resident, and then obviously immediately the same day you can petition for your children to to immigrate one day to the US as well. Okay, so let me post a response here, and we're gonna move on to the next question, comment from Deepti Hindocha 4825. How to pay the fees online, please guide. Thank you very much for your question. So it's very simple, and you're asking on I-130 interview questions. It's very straightforward. Whenever it comes to, USCIS website, if you're filling out the application online, first, you're starting the application process, you fill out the whole application, then you will have all the fields to upload all of the documentation that comes in an application package. And when you are done with all of this, you will have an option, it's really the last part, to pay for the application package. Once it is paid, it is submitted. So if you're doing it online, you need to fill out the application and submit all the documents first before you will have an option to pay for the application. Okay, so let me post the response here, and we're going to move on to the next question from Shinuda Bikit. Shinuda, thank you very much for another question, and as always, thank you for being a public subscriber on this channel. Hi, my friend, I really want to thank you and don't know how. Don't worry about it. You already did. Thanks for always answering all the questions. We have become friends. Shinuda, appreciate it. As for the green card, when I get it, hopefully I hear that you can get into some other countries with the green card, like Mexico, for example. Yes, absolutely. So again, if you are traveling by car where you don't need to use a passport, the green card is just going to be fine. The form of identification, basically. That's it. As for my Egyptian passport, it is valid, but is it okay to use it before the naturalization and 400, and is it okay for the interview? Yes, absolutely. So your Egyptian passport, as long as it is valid, you can use it to travel to other countries as well. Just keep in mind that, if you're traveling to, for example, the country that requires a visa for a citizen of Egypt, but does not require a visa for a US citizen, you would have to get a visa if you're traveling with Egyptian passport, obviously. That makes sense. Thanks again, and I will wait for the new video on the green card, and really God bless your work. Shinuda, thank you very much. I really appreciate your kind comment. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from Moemi Inthan 336. Hello, it is really work. Can I ask some questions? Absolutely. First, do I need to fill I-94 as well before filling this form? So it was a comment on I-589 application for asylum. Furthermore, what kind of documents are attached besides this form? Okay, so thank you for your question. So I-94 is an arrival departure record. You really don't need to fill it in or anything like this. They issue once you enter the country. Now, if you're talking about the arrival departure record entry on the I-589 application, yes, absolutely, you would have to put in all your arrival departure information if you traveled to the United States before, or at least if it's first time entry, then you would have to mention that on the application for sure. Now, whenever it comes to other kinds of documents that you would have to provide, I-589 application for asylum and withholding or withholding of removal. It's a pretty big application package, so there's a lot of documents that are involved. All of that information you can find in the instructions on this form, and I'll put the link so that you have that, and I'll use this as an opportunity to demonstrate some navigation on USCIS.gov, which is the official website for US Citizenship and Immigration Services. It's a government website, so anything that comes out updated, first updates here on this website right here. So we're gonna go into forms. We're gonna go to all forms, and I'll find the 589 application for asylum. There you go. And looks like it's no longer available to file online, which is kind of sad, because I was really happy that USCIS was implementing more and more online applications, but looks like now they're taking away online applications and going back to paper, which is kind of like downgrading. It's really weird. So whenever it comes to the documents, first of all, you can find everything you need here in the instructions. But the main documents probably would be, obviously besides the documents that, confirm your identification, birth certificate, all of that sort of stuff. The main documents in the asylum application would be the documents that establish your eligibility for asylum. The documents that provide corroboration, provide evidence to all of the things that you are reporting, claiming on the written statement for the asylum. And the written statement is probably one of the most important things in the asylum application package, because, well, in the written statement, you describe why you're claiming the asylum. So you're describing the persecution in the country that you came from and the reason why you cannot go back. And to all of these statements, to all of these claims, you are, attaching documents showing that what you're saying in the written statement is valid. So I actually do have a video on this channel. It's called How to Write the Asylum Statement or Asylum Story. It's one of those. Check it out. In that video, I kind of go more in depth on how to write that statement, so you might have a little bit of better idea, whenever it comes to what you need to write. And obviously based on what you need to write is the documents. It will depend on what kind of documents you will be providing. So let me attach this page right here. It's the instructions for the form I-589. Make sure to read through all of these. I know it's 13 pages, quite a lot of information, but if you're doing it all on your own, without the attorney, without the help of an immigration practitioner, definitely read the whole thing and make sure you follow the instructions closely, because like I said, asylum application is probably one of the more elaborate and where you really do need to pay a lot of attention to make sure everything is correct there. Okay, so let's move on to the next question from Sunrise GP3YM. First, I would like to thank you for answering my question. You're very welcome. Thank you for asking. Second, which is better to ask questions through the inquiry or give them a call? God bless you. Sunrise, God bless. Thank you very much. Appreciate your kind comment. So it really depends. If you're dealing with NVC, it seems like they are much more responsive whenever it comes to their online public inquiry form. So it's technically an email that is being sent to them, but it's done through their website, through the Department of State website. But if you're dealing with the US Embassy or USCIS, as far as I can tell so far, although USCIS is pretty hard to reach over the phone, but you can, it's better over the phone. So NVC public inquiry form is the best. So it would be email. USCIS and the US embassies around the world through the phone would be best. Some US embassies, I heard from some of the commenters, they are not very good at picking up the phones. So in those situations, I would definitely send them the email. But if you can reach them over the phone, that would definitely be best, especially with US Embassy, because really most of the times with them you don't even have to go through all of these crazy prompts like with USCIS. There's just a receptionist, whoever answers the phones locally there in the US Embassy, so they just answer, and that's really it. So Sunrise, thank you very much for your question. Let's move on to the next one from Ann Samuels 3916. Thanks for answering my question. However, I made a mistake. My documentarily qualified date was January 6, 2023. Priority date 28 September 2019. Okay, Ann Samuels, thank you very much for correcting, and it makes a little bit more sense now. Okay, moving further to Ahmed Sagor 1262. Hi, my priority date is 13 October 2022. US citizen, apply, alien relative, I-130. When it will be approved? Okay, so Ahmed Sagor, I'm definitely going to need some additional information to give you some rough estimates. I know it is a US citizen applied for alien relative petition, but here's the thing. It can be US citizen applying for, spouse, for a child over 21, it's going to be a family preference category. Spouse and child under 21, it's going to be immediate relative category. Married child or over 21, it's going to be F3. Sibling, it's going to be forced family preference category. So please, I'm going to need some follow-up information from you. If you can, in a separate comment, let me know which family preference category. If it's immediate relative, let me know immediate relative category. If it's one of the family preference, one of the 4 family preference categories, let me know. Put the priority date once again, so that because I get a lot of comments, so I might forget once I see it. And then the chargeability area, because depending on which country you're from, we might be looking at a little bit of a different date. So Ahmed, please let me know, and I will be able to follow up on that and answer it in the further video. Okay, let's move on to the next question comment from Bapumia6210. Assalamu alaikum, dear sir. Walaikum assalam. Category F1 family. Priority date 9 May 2016. Documentarily qualified 21 December 2021. How long does it take to schedule for interview? Okay, so family preference category 1. So let's take a look at what's going on. We don't know the chargeability area, so I will just look at all chargeability area, and we're going to be looking at graph A, because we know that you're already documentarily qualified, which is, congratulations, by the way, because, becoming documentarily qualified, it's a huge step, it's a huge milestone, and, it does take a lot of work to get to that point. So as of right now, we see that F1 people with the priority date in December 2014, around December 2014, as of right now, July 2023, they are, getting their immigrant visas. Their immigrant visas are becoming available, not they're getting. Their immigrant visas becoming available, so their interviews are being scheduled. So your priority date is in May 2016. Okay, so you're in May 2016, so you are looking, because this is almost 2015, because it's December 15, 2014, so it's pretty much 2015. So you are roughly looking at another year and a half before the availability of the immigrant visa. And it's a very rough estimate, because things can speed up, things can slow down. The new visa bulletin is coming out in, I would say, another week max. We're gonna have the brand new visa bulletin for August 2023. So we're gonna take a look at it, and hopefully we will see some movement for honestly, for everyone. I hope we're gonna see some movement. We'll see. Once it comes out, I will make a separate video on it. Discussing what moved and what didn't move, and compare it to the previous visa bulletin. But as of right now, roughly, you have about a year and a half before the availability of the immigrant visa, and then obviously once it is available, some administrative processing for US Embassy to schedule the interview. So maybe another few months to schedule the interview, get the interview date. So I would say probably about, possibly 2 years total, but about a year and a half for the availability of the immigrant visa. Okay, so let me post the response here, and we're gonna move on to the next comment from Michael de Jesus Vericorte 7552. How much do you think could retrogress F2A final action date for August bulletin? Thank you in advance. Michael, that's a very, very complicated question, honestly. Man, visa bulletin has been so unpredictable in these past few months. Honestly, it did move pretty good for some of the categories, but then again, here's the thing. If we are looking at the past 3 months or 4 months, past quarter, right? And we look at certain categories, we can see some really good movement. But if we look back at about a year and a half, 2 years, and take into consideration of what happened in those past 2 years, then we see that the movement that we saw in the past 3 months is not good at all. It's not good at all. The good news is that F2A already retrogressed in the past few months. So hopefully, and again, don't take my word for it, because this is just, my personal guesswork, all right, based on what I see. But based on what I see in the past few months, because we already seen some retrogression on the F2A category, because you got to keep in mind, F2A used to be current. F2A was, for the most part, current. So once you're approved, once you're documentarily qualified, immigrant visas are available, so quickly, done, and that's it. The immigrant visa, the interview is scheduled, and you get your immigrant visa. But in the past few months, we've seen that the F2A went back, and now we see about 3 years of the backlog on the F2A. If we look at, as of right now, you see right now it's showing September 2020, so it's roughly about, because we're not in September yet, so it's like two years and 9 months, I think, of a backlog, which it used to be current. So with that, hopefully it does not retrogress more and just keeps on moving further. But I think for that we're gonna need another 3-4 months to kind of solidify that prediction. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, again, please do, because once August visa bulletin comes out, I'll definitely make a video on it, and hopefully no more retrogression for the F2A. As of right now, I think it's not going to retrogress anymore, because we already seen from current to about 3 years of retrogression, which is a lot of time. So hopefully not anymore. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Comment from Samba16374. I applied for my brothers and they are in India. Received form I-797. Priority date July 27, 2008. And I received DT February 26, 2010. When will get the interview? Okay, I'm not sure what DT is, but since it's India, it's a separate chargeability area. So let's take a look. If you applied for your brothers, it's F4, Force Preference Category, Force Family Preference Category. So 2008, July 2008. Let's take a look what's going on for F4. I'm going to look at the graph A to see when for the total availability of the immigrant visa. So F4 India right now is September 2005. And their priority date is in July 2008. So it is about 3 years. So you're looking roughly at another 3 years for the availability of the immigrant visa. So once the immigrant visa is available, the interview is scheduled. So I would say roughly about 3.5 more years for the interview. And again, hopefully we don't see any more backlog accumulation on the visa bulletin. Okay, moving further to the next question from Prince Osei Bonsu 31. Good day, sir. My priority date is 28 April 2014. Can I apply for adjustment of status now? I am documentarily qualified and in the F1 family preference category. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your question. So let's take a look. April 2014. I'm going to look at all chargeability area. But if you're in one of the, obviously, China, India, Mexico, Philippines, that's what you will be looking at. So right now, the first family preference category is showing December 2014. And you're in April 2014. Okay, so you're one of those people that is way back and your immigrant visa should have been available already. And it seems to be the case. I don't know what happened, but actually the very first commenter on this channel, Denise, he actually is in the same situation as you are, and I think his priority date is in March. And there's a lot of people, and you're the first one in April, but there's a lot of people in March that commented on this channel that if you look at the visa bulletin, it shows that it is current, but the interview has not been scheduled, and something is going on. So I would recommend waiting for the August 2023 visa bulletin. Take a look at that, see what's going on, and also I would recommend submitting a public inquiry form with the NVC because you're definitely overdue. There is really no point submitting the adjustment of status now. Technically, you really, unless you're here in the United States of America, then yes, NVC will send you an option to do that. But if you're outside of the United States, then the only thing that you can do is just to wait for the immigrant interview. But I'd still recommend submitting a public inquiry form with the NVC, with the Department of State. I'm going to show you how to do that. So from this page, you can find this page, the link for this page in the description below, Visa Bulletin July 2023. You're going to click on Contact Us, and I'll do all of that, and I'll put the link so you don't have to search for it, but this is just for everyone. US Visa Contacts right here, and then scroll down a little bit. You will see Email Public Inquiry Form right here. We're going to click on this, and then Online Public Inquiry Form right here. So this is a public inquiry form. You will put NVC case number right here, beneficiary's full name, beneficiary's date of birth, petitioner's full name, who you are, beneficiary, petitioner, your email address, and your public inquiry, your letter, basically, introducing yourself, providing case details, and then saying that, according to the visa bulletin, your immigrant visa should already be available as of, from April. So it's May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So as of 8 months, almost 7 to 8 months, the immigrant visa is supposed to be available, and it's still not. You still didn't get your interview, so you wanted to follow up. So send that. Most likely they will respond with most likely it's going to be a very boilerplate response, because a lot of times that's what they do. But it's necessary, if you have to deal later with an immigration attorney, because you're not able to resolve this issue directly with the NVC, it is necessary to have that communication between them. And then if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to come back to this channel and ask them. And that goes for everyone who's watching this video. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. Always appreciate your questions and your time. God bless, and I'll see you all in the next video.